I am Captain R. Walton, and my question to you is why are you not reading this? Why?
You, Captain R. Walton, what are you doing here? I'm trying to do my work.
No, you need to be reading this book. You don't understand. You need to be reading it now.
I'm doing something
my
right
letters
now.
are very important.
I guess I'll read this book then.
Okay.
Okay, now I've gotten rid of that guy. Let's have a conversation about the book's chapters 11 through 17. So let's back it up just a little bit into chapter 10. So we see Dr. Frankenstein get really upset. He feels this inner calling to go out to the mountains because his brother has just died. His friend has just been hung for his murder, even though he's really confident that that's not what happened. So he goes out into the wilderness, and he has a moment where he cries out, and he's like, just let me die, let me stop suffering. And that's when Frankenstein appears. So throughout the book, we see Dr. Frankenstein do many of these calling out to spirits in the wilderness or later on in the book in different areas. And that is one of the pure signs of the Gothic. So anything having to do with spirits, anything having to do with the unexplained, omens. I would even describe Dr. Frankenstein's feeling of responsibility towards his monster to listen to his tale as one of those signs of the Gothic, because he feels that he owes that debt to him, which I would say is kind of a deal with the devil kind of debt, which adds to that eerie, uncomfortable feeling that the Gothic is supposed to have. So we get into Frankenstein's tale, and as we know, from the moment he opens his eyes, he is opened up to rejection. His father, the doctor, immediately runs out in horror and fear of his face and his disfigured look. And Frankenstein is just basically a baby at this point, and he doesn't understand. He just knows that he has this instant rejection, and then he runs off. And he has a couple of encounters in the woods when he's trying to figure out how to survive eating nuts and roots and berries. And he even discovers fire at one point, but he doesn't know how to replicate it and how to make it. He's wordless, he has no language, and he's just kind of wandering around, like I said, like a lost baby. This is the point of the book where I really feel like we can empathize with the monster, with Frankenstein, and how he's lost, he doesn't understand, and from his perspective, he's utterly alone and there's no one there to help him, which I would argue is very true. But he eventually goes on and he finds these cottagers. He finds this family that lives in a cottage, and he gets into a secret, sneaky spot and watches them. And he gets his first ideas of what family is, what love and affection and sadness and unhappiness are as well. He first begins by learning about their relationships to each other. So it's going to be the father-son relationship, the father-daughter, and then, of course, their relationship to one another. And when he first sees them, he struggles to understand why the son, the young man, is sad, because they have everything that he's not capable of getting in his childlike mind. They have wonderful food, they have fire, they have shelter from the elements, all of these things that he just wants, but he doesn't know how to get, and he thinks that that's happiness at that point in time. Now, fortunately, or unfortunately for him, they never see him. He really longs to make that contact with them, but he can't understand what they're saying, what they have to say. And he still doesn't understand why that young man, that son, is sad. That is until his wife appears. The lady that is referred to as the Arabian, because she comes in, she doesn't speak English, and she's getting married to the young man. And then suddenly he is so happy and he's overjoyed, and his sadness is no more. And Frankenstein's monster, I should say, recognizes this. He recognizes that this young man was very sad and lonely, even though he had this family with him, until he found a woman. So I think a lot of that is where he gets that first idea of happiness with just one other person, one significant other. And Mary Shelley uses this wonderful device to help Frankenstein learn language, to help him conquer that difficulty with not understanding what they're saying, because as they are teaching her, he's learning as well. And he even eventually learns how to write and how to read, and has a lot of interesting things to say about books that he finds. Overall, one passage, because we discussed Paradise Lost, so I wanted to read this out to you guys. On my book, it's on page 119, but it's just 2 or 3 pages into chapter 15 when he's spying on them, and he's talking about reading Paradise Lost, which we read together. Everything is related in them which bears reference to my accursed origin. The whole detail of that series of disgusting circumstances which produced it anew set in view. The minutest description of my odious and loathsome person is given in language which painted your own horrors and rendered mine indeliberable. I am sickened as I read, hateful day when I received my life. That's from Paradise Lost. I exclaimed in agony, accursed creator, why did you form a monster so hideous that even you turned from me in disgust? God, in pity, made man beautiful and alluring, after his own image, but my form is a filthy type of yours, more horrid even from the very resemblance. Satan had his companions, fellow devils, to admire and encourage him, but I am solitary and abhorred. So, abhorred meaning hated. He says it a lot in there. We really get to see how alone he feels. He even described reading Paradise Lost as a living history, and there's a couple of times that he compares himself to that fallen angel. And it's just unfortunate how he feels, because yes, his looks are terrible. His looks are horrible. They say this many, many times throughout the whole thing, that he truly is despicable to look at. But then we have to wonder, how important is that, getting to see these inner thoughts of the monster's mind? And that was his reaction to reading Paradise Lost, is even the most hated among us, among our religions, among our people, that creature had fellow devils. That creature had fellow people who would support him, and Frankenstein is alone. Eventually, he works on his language, and he gathers up the courage to go and try and be accepted by these cottagers. And he does little tasks for them all the time, where he chops wood for them and leaves it there so they don't have to do it during the day, and really tries to be a part of this family. And the father, who is blind, is his first target of who he can get to listen to him without being terrified by his grotesque image. That is, to me, one of the saddest points of the book, where he goes in and he almost breaks through to the father, he almost is accepted, but the children return home, and Frankenstein is absolutely beaten. He has the ability to he absolutely has the ability to take them down. He could destroy them, he could kill them, but he has this hope. He has this hope that he'll be able to return and that maybe he can still have someone, he can still be a part of it as long as he can convince them well enough. And that's why he doesn't do anything, he doesn't hurt them. And then he says, "But it was all a dream. No Eve soothed my sorrow nor shared my thoughts. I was alone. I remembered Adam's supplication to his creator, but where was mine? He had abandoned me, and in bitterness of my heart I cursed him." So, yeah, he's kicked out. They say they don't want the cottage anymore when he returns. They want nothing to do with him, and it breaks his heart. And that's when he starts to blame Dr. Frankenstein for his very, very existence, that he could never, in any hope, find someone. He could never have love. He could never have those things. So he begins to really, really hate his father, his creator. And it eventually embarks him to go and find him, seek him out, and have this discussion, tell him what he has been through. Now, going back to relating to the Gothic, before we go a little bit too much further into this, some important signs, anything that makes you feel eerie or spooky or anything, that's basically the Gothic. If it has supernatural aspects to it. So Frankenstein's very birth and his childlike craziness, his ludicrous existence is Gothic. He himself is a stereotype for a Gothic character because he cannot be explained. He doesn't make sense. He shouldn't be there, and he's a mystery. That's a lot of it. And as well as his terrifying image, his terrifying stature, all of those things are meant to strike fear into the hearts of the reader, but also we're feeling this level of sympathy for him. Another aspect of the Gothic is going to be that almost melodramatic level of emotion, where there is a high level of tragedy, a high level of emotion to the point where it's almost overdone, but I think it's right on that line where you believe it, it's tragic, it touches your heart, but it doesn't seem like overkill, but it is right on that line. And I think Mary Shelley does an incredible, incredible job. Then we get into chapter 17, which is my favorite chapter. It's only like 5 pages long, and I love it. So we get to the end of Frankenstein's tale, and he says that's why he needs Dr. Frankenstein to make him a woman. He needs him to give him a companion so he's not so alone, that he might actually be happy for once in his life. And if he doesn't get it, then his hatred that he feels for Frankenstein is going to come out in much worse ways. And in this story, he even admitted to killing Victor Frankenstein's brother and planting it on his friend. So the doctor, when he hears this, is caught up in a whirlwind of emotions and doesn't want to help him. But going back to that debt, that immoral, that surreal debt that he owes to this monster that he created and brought to life, that really speaks towards that Gothic. So Frankenstein, the monster, as he is giving this rhetoric of how lonely he is and how he only wants love, and happiness and that thing that everyone else gets, Dr. Frankenstein doesn't believe him. He doesn't want to believe him because he is afraid. He's afraid of his look, of his face, and that this is all some kind of insidious act to wreak havoc and horror on the world. And it's really up to the reader to decide if that's truly the monster's intention or not. Do you believe he is a monster? He is a truly evil villain that has absolutely no morality, no chance at true love because he's as ugly on the inside as he is on the outside? Or is that all surface? Is that all what he has on the outside, but he has every potential to be just like us on the inside? We don't really know. At first, the doctor doesn't believe him, but the monster is so extremely good at convincing him, and he even promises, I'll never return. You'll never see us again. We will disappear. But he kind of gives him this side threat of, if you don't, then I'll be very sad, and I'll be very angry, and who knows what I'll do with my anger. Oh yeah, I will exact my vengeance on you for bringing me into this world, but never giving me a chance at happiness. So those are a lot of the main themes that we have within those chapters of... Oh. Okay. How about we take a break for a minute and go see a scene from our reenactors?
I can't. I won't do it.
But you must! You created me!
You don't understand. I can't do it and I refuse.
I'm so alone in this world. Everyone else has someone to love and to hold.
You're an abomination. A demon.
But you will never hear from me again. You will never see me. And if you don't, I'll kill everyone you love.
Oh, all right, Frankie. I'll do it.
Bravo! Bravo, reenactors. You guys did a wonderful job. Very proud of you all. So don't forget that our homework for this time is to read through...
Yes, read. Yeah, reading is good. Read it.
Sorry, I thought I got rid of him. Yes, read chapters 18 through the end of the book, and don't forget to do your journal questions. You have the option of, how does the monster's isolation relate to our own right now in quarantine? Or you can tell me who you believe more in the argument in chapter 17, the monster or Dr. Frankenstein. All right, have a good one. Stay safe. Bye.